on. And for Cecil, I know we market locally, but what about internationally? Because that is such a large facility out there.
When you think about aviation, specifically aviation manufacturing, aviation is a global business. So you really have to be able to not only market the capability of Cecil Field to domestic manufacturers, but you also have to be able to market to international aviation manufacturing companies. When you look at projects like the Alenia C-27J facility, of course there's Alenia North America, but it's a Finmeccanica company which is actually out of Italy. So we, along with the Chamber, when we talked about collaborations with the Chamber and the city and the state, we take that opportunity to market our facilities internationally and globally, because again, aviation is a global business. So we want to make sure that we have our footprint, specifically Cecil, with the runway capabilities and the vast amount of land that we have available for greenfield site development. We want to make sure that we're known not just in the United States, but also around the world for the capabilities that we have at Cecil Field.
And I understand that the Aviation Authority had prepared a master plan that sort of gave a vision of what the potential at Cecil Field was. Was that something that you assisted in developing that?
Yes, Debbie, that was a major land use plan study that was completed for Cecil Field that identified the different types of industry, the different types of use for all the existing space at Cecil Field.
And so you're able, I guess, to take that, and that would, I assume, be something that whoever you're talking to would be interested in, because you've already sort of laid out the plan for them and what they can do.
That's correct. When you have an aircraft manufacturer, we want them to take a look at, number one, the airfield capability that we have at Cecil Field. We also want them to take a look at the vast amount of greenfield space that we have available for new facilities, because what we can have them come in and do is set up an initial facility, but they can see the growth potential as far as if they bring additional assembly facilities online, we have the opportunity for them to really grow in one location. And our planning department really took a look at our land use out there. Of course, we have to follow all of the city's zoning and regulatory requirements, looking at wetlands to make sure that we know whether the wetlands are being impacted. So that's why it's critical for our planning and engineering department to be integrated into that process. And the more information that we can give to potential tenants or potential companies as far as what the lay of the land looks like, what the topography looks like, what the wetlands look like, it can give them more information to make some preliminary decisions as far as whether or not they want to come in and take a closer look at Cecil Field.
And we're talking really long-term investments and opportunities and jobs. So when you have these plans, this is really looking 20, 30 years and beyond in the future of the capacity and capability of those sites.
Yes.
Well, I know that something you've been really involved in, Todd, is something that we're awfully excited about, and that is Cecil Field as a spaceport. Tell us a little bit, start us from the beginning, a little history about how in the world did the idea germinate about Cecil Field potentially becoming a spaceport?
Well, before Cecil Field was even mentioned as a spaceport, Cecil Field had been named or termed as a possible landing site for the shuttle in the event the shuttle couldn't get back into the Cape. That's what started the idea. Then in 2004, at the time, the Florida Space Agency approached the Jacksonville Aviation Authority and recommended that we would consider attempting or going through the process of getting a spaceport license. So with that being said, under our previous administration, Mr. John Clark, he took a look at this and decided this was something we needed to go forward with. With that in mind, we started the process of going through meeting all the challenges that's necessary to get a spaceport license. This included going through environmental assessment and completing the licensing application process. The environmental assessment itself looks at 23 different categories of environmental impact areas. And in this case, it determined how much environmental impact would occur as a result of operating a launch site at Cecil Field for horizontal launch vehicles. We received a finding of no significant impact from the FAA. With that being said and that being completed, we pushed forward with completing the licensing process. The licensing application process was a multi-step process that included not only filling out a piece of paper that would be an application, but also conducting a risk analysis, identifying a flight corridor, establishing a letter of agreement with FAA for operation, as well as determining that none of the national security would be at jeopardy as a result of us operating a spaceport. One thing we got to keep in mind when we're talking about space travel, we're going to altitudes and distances farther above and beyond of what people are currently conducting. So with that in mind, once meeting all that criteria, we were granted the license.
So in part of the application, because you have airspace that you have to deal with, because we're a pretty busy area out here with all the military activity and then the activity with our 4 airports and stuff. So was that one of the challenges as well, as far as getting approval, was dealing with the current airspace?
Addressing the airspace issue was very vital part of this, and I would like to thank the FAA for working so closely with us on this and go through the coordination process. What we had to do is we had to identify a corridor, a means of getting aircraft, spacecraft from Cecil Field to their operating area, which we identified as over the Atlantic Ocean. And in doing that, it required a lot of close coordination and determination, making sure there was no significant risk to anyone on the ground or in the air because of these aircraft. You've got to keep in mind these aircraft, once they traverse 50,000 feet and ignite their rockets, they're going to be traveling around 3,500 miles an hour. And with that in mind alone, the mixture of aircraft traveling 400 and 500 miles an hour with aircraft going 3,500 miles an hour, it causes some issues.
Well, walk us through what a spaceport launch would look like. I mean, we'll come back and talk about how we're going to get there, but did we get our license?
We received our license actually on January 11th, 2010.
Oh, okay. So we're officially
a spaceport. That's correct. And the launch itself will be conducted similar to what an aircraft launch looks like to us today. It's horizontal launch vehicles. They take off as an aircraft under turbojet power. Once reaching an altitude of approximately 40 to 50,000 feet, depending on the aircraft.
And they'll be over the Atlantic Ocean at this time?
Yes, at that point they will be over the Atlantic Ocean. As a matter of fact, they will cross the border or across the beach at about 20 to 24,000 feet, continue climbing to 40 to 50,000 feet over the Atlantic, and they will ignite their rocket engine and go at an angle of about 70 degrees vertical.
I know what 45 is. So it's between 45 and 90. That's pretty steep.
Pretty steep, yes. And once they climb to apogee, which is around 300,000 feet, they will get into an area of weightlessness. Leisure travelers will be able to experience weightlessness for about a 10-minute period of time before coming back to Earth. Once the rocket propellant is expended from the vehicle will start its way back down to Earth, and they will use different types of strategies to release a lot of the energy in the vehicle, getting it slowed down, getting it down to a manageable altitude for returning to Cecil Field.
So now that we have our license, what's next? I mean, this seems like something that people might be interested in from a marketing perspective. What's next?
Well, and like you just said, alluded to, that's exactly right. We will be doing a lot of marketing with Rosa and her group to identify operators to come to Cecil Field. As a matter of fact, we recently signed a letter of agreement, or Rosa's group signed a letter of agreement with an operator.
And explain what an operator is. An
operator would be a group or company, organization who operate a vehicle.
So they would actually be a tenant at Cecil Field. The Aviation Authority is not the one that's going to be taking off on these. We're actually having another business or company come in and conduct those flights.
That's exactly right.
They would be similar to what you would normally see as an airline, but they will be a space launch operator. So.
Wow. So you said we're kind of in talks with potential operators. What, do you have some type of timeline about when we might get an operator signed and on board?
Of course we want one now.
Yeah.
However, this does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. We found that with going through the licensing process. I expect the licensing process to be completed in a very short amount of time. It took us 4 years, which is less than what any other licensee has taken. Now moving on to identifying and having an operator actually operating at Cecil Field, we're looking at probably 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Now, having a spaceport, once assuming we do get an operator and we actually start having this activity out at Cecil Field, what would that mean for our community and our region to have a operating spaceport conducting, however it fleshes out, space tourism or commercial applications? What would that mean to this area?
If you look at the opportunity that we have with being a spaceport and the ability to put facilities out there to support space tourism, you can have people coming into this region to go out on space travel, but you also can have a huge tourist facility from an educational standpoint. So just like Epcot is out at Disney World, we can have a facility located at Cecil Field that actually supports an education, space tourism development out at Cecil Field.
Now, other facilities, I know there are other spaceport facilities. My understanding is we've got a pretty good location compared to other facilities. Is that accurate?
We have a very good location compared to other facilities. The two primary spaceports that conduct horizontal launch activities would be Spaceport America in New Mexico, which is in the middle of the desert, and then the Mojave Spaceport, which is, of course, in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Both of these facilities are very capable facilities, have a lot of facilities to accommodate all space activities, horizontal launch space activities. However, they're not close to very many amenities. With Cecil Field Spaceport, we're located here in Northeast Florida, close to a lot of amenities, and one thing that we do not want to forget is the fact we're located very close to the Cape. We can work very close with the folks at Kennedy Space Center, garner their knowledge as they continue to try to be the leader in vertical launch space activities. And we'll be a complement to them being able to conduct horizontal launch activities from Cecil Field.
So I can see a space travel package. Come to Florida, fly off in space, take a tour of Kennedy, and enjoy all the wonderful things we have here in Jacksonville. Well, exciting stuff ahead for the Aviation Authority and everybody here in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. And I want to thank you so much for giving us some insight into what we have available. Rosa Beckett, once again, Director of Marketing, and Mr. Todd Lindner, Administrator of Planning and Development. Thank you for being my guest today. And thank you for joining us on this edition of the Airport News Show. We'll see you next time.